Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? This legendary phrase resonates far beyond Disney's enchanting 1937 masterpiece Snow White, inviting us to explore the deeper origins of this enduring narrative. Beneath the animated charm lies a past steeped in shadow and mystery, a story first documented by the Brothers Grimm in 1812. Within these dual narratives exists a striking opposition, one filled with joy, melodies, and a perfect ending, while the other presents a terrifying tale of jealousy, treachery, and survival. As we strip away the fantastical layers, we reveal a chilling possibility: the folklore behind Snow White may have originated from the stories of two actual historical figures, their existences interwoven with both fact and legend. Come with me on an exploration through the magical forests of storytelling and history, where truth and fiction merge, and where Snow White's authentic beginnings lie waiting to be discovered. Before examining the real-world connections to Snow White, we must first look at the disturbing original narrative. Many mistakenly believe the Grimm brothers invented Snow White's story. Actually, Snow White represents traditional German folklore that the Grimm brothers documented and shared alongside countless other tales. Working as librarians in Kassel, the brothers witnessed a critical historical turning point. When Napoleon Bonaparte's forces defeated William I, Elector of Hesse in 1806, Kassel became the capital of the newly established Kingdom of Westphalia, with Napoleon's brother Jerome Bonaparte ruling as king. During this period, Germany existed as 39 separate states, and the German language suffered from fragmentation caused by numerous competing influences and regional dialects. Worried about losing German identity and cultural traditions, the Grimms undertook a campaign to preserve German unity by documenting the folktales embedded in German culture, stories transmitted orally through generations but never formally written down. They couldn't have imagined the enormous impact their work would create, ultimately shaping how childhood would be experienced for hundreds of years to follow. When the Brothers Grimm published their initial volume of Children's and Household Tales in 1812, they included 86 traditional German folk stories. Though some questioned whether certain stories suited children, the brothers preserved them all, convinced of their cultural importance while suggesting parents help children select appropriate material. In truth, while gathering these folklore pieces, the Grimms never envisioned children as the primary audience. The original, Children's and Household Tales, contained violent and disturbing content that later versions softened considerably, with Snow White being a prime example. The original Grimm version presents the Queen not as Snow White's stepmother but as her actual biological mother. The story begins with the Queen sitting beside a window, sewing while snowflakes drift down outside. After accidentally pricking her finger, 3 crimson droplets stain the pure white snow. At that instant, she experiences an intense longing, wishing for a daughter possessing skin like snow, lips matching her blood's redness, and hair resembling the ebony window frame. Her wish becomes reality, and 7 years afterward, Snow White has transformed into a stunning and captivating child, awakening jealousy within her mother's heart. The crisis arrives when the Queen, questioning her magic mirror about who possesses the greatest beauty, receives a shocking answer. "You, my Queen, possess beauty, this is certain, but Snow White surpasses you by 1,000 times." Furious at this revelation, the Queen creates a wicked plan to eliminate her young daughter. She orders a huntsman to take her innocent 7-year-old daughter deep into the forest, commanding him to kill her by stabbing and bring back her lungs and liver for the Queen to consume with salt. The Grimms probably incorporated this horrifying element because witches were commonly believed to devour children. The Queen's intention was to use the organs in magical rituals to transfer her daughter's youth and beauty to herself, embodying the most extreme forms of maternal envy. Luckily, the huntsman feels compassion and releases Snow White, encouraging her to escape far into the wilderness to avoid her mother's fury. Through clever deception, he delivers wild boar organs to the Queen instead of her daughters. Frightened and disoriented, Snow White discovers a charming cottage containing 7 of every item: beds, chairs, forks, and spoons. Though hesitant, her hunger compels her to consume a small amount of food and wine from each setting before weariness overtakes her and she sleeps in one of the beds. That evening, the 7 dwarfs come home to find the sleeping girl. Touched by her innocent demeanor, they choose to leave her undisturbed until sunrise. When morning arrives, Snow White wakes to see the dwarfs observing her closely. After hearing her tale, they welcome her to remain with them, requesting only that she handle cooking and cleaning as payment for their protection. Meanwhile at the castle, the wicked Queen questions her magic mirror again, only to receive another crushing truth. "You, my Queen, possess beauty, this is certain, but little Snow White living beyond the 7 mountains surpasses you by 1,000 times. Understanding that only the 7 dwarfs live beyond those peaks, she burns with fury and commits to eliminating Snow White regardless of the cost. This initiates her persistent campaign against the young girl, featuring 3 assassination attempts. The initial attack, the queen transforms herself into a peddler, tempting Snow White with beautiful lace that she gladly purchases. With a wicked smile, the queen proposes to tie Snow White's bodice, slowly tightening the strings until they form a lethal trap. As Snow White falls, gasping desperately for air, the queen quickly escapes. Fortunately, the dwarfs arrive promptly, severing the laces and freeing her from certain death. The secondary attack, not discouraged by her first failure, the queen comes back with a poisoned comb, attracting Snow White with its attractiveness. Though initially wary, Snow White gives in to desire, allowing the stranger to insert the lovely comb into her hair and loses consciousness immediately. The dwarfs step in at the crucial moment, rescuing her by removing the comb from her hair. The final attack, annoyed by Snow White's survival, the queen develops her most lethal scheme, a poisoned apple. Dressed as an old woman, she presents the poisoned apple to Snow White, who wavers, remembering the dwarf's warnings about accepting gifts from unknown people. Through cunning manipulation, the queen poisons just 1/2 of the apple, proving its safety by eating the clean side before passing it to the girl through the window. Within moments of tasting it, Snow White falls victim to the poison, collapsing to the ground lifeless. The 7 dwarfs discover Snow White's motionless body, yet she looks so peaceful that they refuse to bury her. Rather, they position her inside a glass coffin in their home, maintaining her beauty indefinitely. Years elapse until eventually, a prince visiting the dwarfs sees Snow White's supernatural appearance. Mesmerized by her beauty, he begs the dwarfs to permit him to transport her body to his palace, vowing to treasure her daily. Though reluctant initially, the dwarfs surrender to the prince's persistent devotion, allowing him to take Snow White's fragile corpse. The prince keeps his word, dedicating all his free time beside Snow White, conversing with the deceased girl and dining beside her, his grief evident whenever responsibilities require him to leave. Yet his servants tire of constantly transporting the casket to satisfy the prince's strange obsession with the girl's body. One servant, overcome by irritation, opens the coffin and angrily strikes Snow White's back, accidentally removing a fragment of the poisoned apple from her throat. To universal amazement, Snow White emerges from her death-like condition. That same evening, the prince and Snow White commemorate her incredible recovery with their first dinner together. Filled with happiness and appreciation, they decide to wed the next day, confirming their love with a promise of eternal togetherness. The original narrative doesn't clarify how long Snow White stayed in her death-like state, nor whether she physically aged during this time. It merely indicates she remained undisturbed for an extended period, without decomposing. This creates the troubling possibility that upon awakening, Snow White might still have appeared as a child. The following morning, Snow White's mother consults the magic mirror, only to learn that a new queen has exceeded her in beauty. Overcome with anger and distrust, the evil queen crashes the young queen's wedding, determined to reveal her competitor. To her shock, she encounters her supposedly dead daughter, living and glowing at the altar. As poetic yet severe punishment, the evil queen receives a sentence to perish while wearing red-hot iron slippers at the wedding, forced to dance until she dies. This folklore, containing its grim and violent elements, contrasts dramatically with the cherished Disney adaptation familiar to most. However, an even more disturbing dimension emerges from its possible connection to reality. Astonishingly, 2 real historical women lived lives that strikingly parallel Snow White's story. Our first candidate is Maria Sophia von Oerthel, born in Lohr am Main, Germany, in 1725. While not officially royalty, Maria Sophia lived in Lohr Castle. A devastating smallpox infection during childhood caused permanent effects, leaving her nearly blind, yet historical records describe her as a girl of exceptional loveliness. Mirrors produced in Lohr possessed an outstanding reputation for superior quality. People claimed these mirrors had a remarkable capacity to speak only the truth, attributed to the extraordinary clarity and refinement of the glass. Maria Sophia's family owned one such mirror, an exceptional piece featuring an impressive red and silver frame, measuring 1.6 meters in height, approximately 5.2 feet. Currently, this extraordinary mirror remains displayed within Lohr Castle, which now operates as a museum. This remarkable mirror's frame displays French inscriptions meaning for reward and for punishment, along with phrases signifying self-esteem or pride. Might this represent the evil queen's actual magic mirror? Contributing to the region's mystique is Spessart Forest, which borders Lore's outskirts. Wild creatures wander freely there, and during the 18th century, criminals hid in the vegetation, attacking unwary travelers who wandered from safe routes. Growing among the region's plants was belladonna, a toxic plant famous for causing paralysis. Theory supporters identify similarities between this dangerous herb and the poison that sent Snow White into her death-like sleep. Contrary to the fictional Snow White, Maria Sophia remained unmarried throughout her life. She devoted herself to charitable works and kindness. During her final years, she discovered comfort and meaning in a convent school, where she passed away in 1796 at 71 years old. Located again in 2019, Maria Sophia's gravestone now serves as a meaningful artifact in Bamberg's Diocesan Museum in southern Germany. The inscription reads, "The noble heroine of Christianity, here she rests after the victory of faith, ready for transfigured resurrection." This wording remarkably mirrors Snow White's awakening from a death-like sleep, creating an intriguing connection between Maria Sophia's existence and the eternal fairy tale. Our alternative candidate for an actual Snow White is Margaretha von Waldeck, a German noblewoman born in 1533, celebrated for her remarkable beauty. Margaretha's childhood experienced tragedy when her mother died while she was only 4 years old. Her father, Philip IV, Count of Waldeck, remarried Katharina von Hatzfeld, whose relationship with his previous marriage's children proved difficult, resulting in several being relocated to relatives' homes. Margaretha matured in a region filled with active copper mines, mainly controlled by her brother, where children worked extensively. The harsh working environments, combined with insufficient nutrition, frequently caused the children to develop stunted growth and permanently bent spines, giving them the local nickname, poor dwarfs. Margaretha's family alone controlled 7 such operations, with laborers packed into single-room dwellings, occasionally housing up to 20 people simultaneously. In Margaretha's community, a troubling event transpired when a man, aggravated by children taking fruit from his orchard, began giving poisoned apples to suspected thieves. Authorities arrested him after several children died, attracting significant notice across the area. When she reached 16, Margaretha traveled across the Siebengebirge, meaning the Seven Mountains, a hilly region in Germany, to stay with her uncle at Valkenburg Castle in modern-day Limburg, Netherlands. In 1549, her father organized her attendance at the Brussels court of Mary of Hungary. While there, Margaretha attracted Prince Philip II of Spain's attention, who fell deeply in love with her. However, their relationship faced strong resistance from Philip's father, Charles I, Holy Roman Emperor and King of Spain, because of Margaretha's Lutheran beliefs, a Protestant branch, and Spain's lack of strategic benefit from the union. Under suspicious circumstances, Margaretha contracted a strange illness in 1554, sparking extensive rumors of intentional harm. Many believed poisoning caused her premature death, a hypothesis supported by numerous contemporary historians. Prince Philip subsequently married Queen Mary I of England, known as Bloody Mary. Margaretha's enigmatic death appears thoroughly documented in various municipal archives and historical papers, including her burial in the Franciscan monastery established in Brussels in 1238. Today, the Bellevue 1238 Museum preserves this history, allowing visitors to explore the monastery's remains beneath Brussels' Bozer. Unfortunately, finding her burial site, much less a gravestone, proves extremely difficult. During that time period, women's remains went mostly undocumented, making identifying her remains among numerous female skeletons buried there nearly impossible. Could these two women represent Snow White's essence? Might elements from their experiences have influenced the folklore the Grimm brothers documented? The brothers Grimm's interpretation certainly incorporates various influences. Folklore inherently possesses complexity and changes across time, making identification of a single source extremely difficult. Snow White's symbolism appears throughout diverse folk tales and mythologies, illustrating the common themes that transcend cultures. In Irish mythology, for example, Deirdre, living in the woods, prophesies her fated loveman possessing raven-black hair, blood-red cheeks, and snow-white skin. Within The Young Slave, an Italian tale from 1634, fairies condemn baby Lisa to perish at 7 from a poisoned comb. Her mother places her within 7 crystal coffins where she continues growing and aging while in a death-like sleep. Greek mythology features Chione, translated as Snow, famous for her extraordinary beauty, reportedly desired by countless men. When she becomes 14, Hermes employs magic to make Chione sleep deeply so he can be intimate with her. That same night, Apollo approaches her disguised as an elderly woman with similar intentions. The Scottish folk tale, Gold Tree and Silver Tree, presents a queen who, enraged by a magical trout declaring her daughter the most beautiful, schemes to murder her and consume her organs. However, the king saves his daughter by arranging her marriage to a distant prince. These instances barely touch the extensive collection of similar stories, showing how Snow White's themes repeat throughout folklore traditions. However, removing the fantastical components like dwarfs and enchanted mirrors, numerous folklore scholars propose Snow White's narrative originally represented seasonal changes and nature's life-death cycle. Snow White represented spring and summer, whereas the queen symbolized frigid autumn and winter. Both women cannot coexist simultaneously because winter envies spring's beauty. Similar to how vegetation appears to perish in winter but revives in spring, Snow White's prolonged sleep potentially represents the inactive phase preceding life's return. Snow White's captivating narrative has mesmerized successive generations, and likely its future adaptations will continue enchanting audiences. Yet while anticipating new interpretations, we shouldn't forget our appreciation for the Brothers Grimm. Their documentation of German folklore offers us an invaluable glimpse into cultural storytelling traditions and has influenced innumerable childhoods. Because of their dedication, Snow White's story extends beyond simple entertainment, becoming a treasured historical artifact and a powerful testament to storytelling's eternal capacity to connect, motivate, and touch people throughout time. What's your perspective? Did Maria Sophia or Margaretha's experiences shape Snow White folklore? Perhaps you interpret the tale differently. Folklore's mysteries continue fascinating us, demonstrating that sometimes the most captivating stories originate from history's darkest corners.